He is so jacked for a magic user.
Word.
Is he using the One Punch Man exercise routine? Like, is that
Unless
why
he's
he
just
can do magic?
magically conjuring up muscles.
Oh, that's possible.
Yeah, don't do magical HGH, y'all. Hi, I'm Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I'm Andrew Tejada, codename Arate. This season, we're racing through every part of the Tomorrowverse on
Yet another DC animated podcast, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. Welcome to yet another episode of yet another DC animated podcast. My name is Shamar Griffith, codename Comic Shams.
And I'm Andrew Tejada, codename Arate.
Andrew and I have known each other since 1996.
That was the year Universal Studios was going to release a live-action Scooby-Doo movie that was planned to have Jim Carrey as Shaggy, Jennifer Love Hewitt in the role of Daphne, and was apparently canceled because Warner Brothers was purchased Turner Entertainment.
Huh. I'm not gonna lie. Jim Carrey as Shaggy would have worked so well.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Matthew Lillard, but like
no, he is Ultra Instinct Shaggy. We know that. But Jim Carrey, he could have been the leader of a live action movie where they run through doors and they run out of other doors and they keep running through doors for I would watch that for an hour, people just running through doors.
Oh, luckily for you, I think your prayers were somewhat answered. At least 20% of your prayers were answered. Because today we're going to be talking about the beginning set of films within the Tomorrowverse. That is right. We are starting coverage on the Tomorrowverse, where first official film was Man of Tomorrow featuring Superman. However, throughout the entire run, we did get a chance to see several shorts that were included on all the other films. And today we're going to talk about each one that actually connects to the universe, apparently. And speaking, the one that about many doors is the one that contains a house of mystery, one may say, as we were talking about Constantine and the House of Mystery. This is a rated R film, just like every other Constantine film we've ever covered. We are about to get the deep, gory cuts of things that might give you nightmares or things you should not be showing your kids for a full 27 minutes. And it's going to be a lot from this 2022 animated film directed by Matt Peters with a screenplay written by Ernie Altbacker and animation services provided by Digital Emation. They're known for the Venture Brothers, Family Guy, Harley Quinn, Disenchanted. And I'm glad that you brought this up. Scooby-Doo and Crypto 2.
Yes, here we go.
This did explain why I was looking at Constantine this entire time. I was like, why do you look like Shaggy with a Fred haircut? So the cast list is as follows, as we have in his penultimate role as the character he has played across animated and live action adaptations for 8 years, as Matt Ryan returns as Constantine. As a reminder, he was our Constantine in the DC AMU. He was Constantine in the 13 episodes canceled after one season NBC's Constantine series that thankfully the Arrowverse brought back, and he had a good run on Legends of Tomorrow before he got changed into I don't remember his name quite exactly.
Oh yeah, the inventor of time travel, and he became like plants. It's complicated. Just know that Spectre is making Matt Ryan be Constantine forever.
Right. Following Constantine, we got Ray Chase, who plays two of Constantine's friends, as we have Jason Blood, who we know from our DC AMU as Etrigan the Demon, as well as Richie, who was also in the DC AMU. He was the friend that got turned into the foe in Justice League Dark. This is just a reminder, if your friend seems like they might be dying, actually check their pulse. They may be pulling a dark trick on you. Next up, he continues to give us nightmares since his appearance in Constantine City of Demons, as we have Nagal, now today voiced by Robert Atkin Downs. We talked about her last week, but today Greg Griffin hangs up her canary tights, now to voice Beelzebub, one of the demons that comes for Constantine, and some truly, truly terrifying kids. Like, we've seen Children of the Corn, we've seen all these little kids that are singing 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. I feel like these were scarier than all of them combined. Next up, we got Damon O'Hare, who is the demon Ashox and Constantine's good friend Chaz. And we also have Tomb Raider, the voice of Tomb Raider, Camille Ludington, who is voicing Zatanna in our short today. And finally, we know his name from, I want to say, like 90s, early 2000s television, from shows that our parents watched that we probably had to watch on the sidelines. As Lou Diamond Phillips is our specter for today, the wrath of God, who has come for Constantine for his transgressions against the DC universe, which, from what we've seen across live action and animated, it's been a lot.
What he would do with David Zaslav if he had him.
Oh my
This
God.
is for Batgirl.
Oh, actually, now that you say that, I do want justice in that way. All right, so now that we got everything all set up, let us boom tube over to the beginning of Constantine House of Mystery.
We start with the world looking brown and on fire. So it is 2024. That's where the movie is set on our current Earth. No, actually, it's from Apocalypse War. So we're going right back to the end of Apocalypse War. And just in case you haven't been following the movies, Constantine does a nice quick summary. He says, the world's done. The world was just finished. Earth was done for. So he asked Flash very nicely, could you cause a flashpoint and reset the timeline for me really quick, fam? And it turns out that he didn't just let Flash run, but Constantine specifically used magic to guide Flash through time in such a way that they would never come against Darkseid and the world wouldn't be destroyed like it was in Apocalypse War. But in an ominous statement, Constantine says, doing that came at a very steep cost.
Yes, and that steep cost was to make yourself look like a Scooby-Doo character. Because we do see now that Constantine opens up his eyes after a really cool animated out title sequence that he is trapped in this hall. He wakes up, he sees that there are many, many doors. And he starts trying to open up some. The first set that he opens up is like that. I believe it's called like the Escher staircase. It's the one with just like the infinite staircases that you can never find the exit to. So he decides, I'm not going to go through that route. But then when he opens up another door, he comes face to face with all of his friends and loved ones, like Zatanna, as we learned in the DCAMU Apocalypse Wars set of saga films. And as he's just enjoying the fact of being around his friends, he gets a shocking surprise when two kids, his kids, enter the room and are just very happy to see him, leading to him still questioning, like, one, how did I have kids? This is the Rated R podcast, but we're not going to talk about that. Talk to your parents about that. So he's wondering about this, but he's still just enjoying the fact that, like, this moment of his, this is like a dream for him. Unfortunately, though, this dream starts turning into a very dark nightmare.
Yeah, because again, if you're not caught up, most of the people in this room are already dead as of this point. Zatanna, Jason Blood, Richie, he all saw die at some point. So that's another hint that everything's off, including his sharp jawline. That's another hint that everything's off. That jawline could cut diamonds. But in the middle of this, his kids start coughing up blood. And shortly after that, everyone in the room starts coughing up blood, passes out, and they all lie on the floor dead. And Constantine is horrified, but he gets even more horrified when everyone wakes up and reveals that they're all demons, including his kids, who are demonic little demon babies. And the two kids jump up, devour him, and once that happens, the timeline is reset. But this time, Constantine enters a poker game room, and strangely, he doesn't seem to remember what he just learned, because he just sits down to play poker once more. And you know what? Things don't get better. Let's say his hand is not great.
Yeah, because honestly, to begin with, I don't think it was a winning hand when you looked at it. He had one pair, y'all. It was bad. But as he looks on further at his hand, he notices that all the cards turn to the number 6, and there's this like kind of like a dark arts imagery that is painted onto it. And we see as he looks up that Etrigan appears and he tells him, you know what they say about bad hands. He takes out a machete and chops off Constantine's hands. As Constantine is reeling back from the shock of what's going on, he looks up again. All of his friends have turned into demons, and they immediately start to attack him, cutting him to bits, leading to now part 3 of our everlasting darkest Groundhog's Day you'll ever be a part of.
Yeah, when they clapped with his hand, that's the most savage
Oh,
thing I've ever seen.
yeah, I forgot about
I, wow, well done. You guys should work for Darkseid.
Give yourself a hand. So as Constantine wakes back up again, he takes out this magic monocle to see if there's any enchantments about where he is. I don't know magic, but everything was just illuminated green when he was looking through. So that could either be good or bad. And then he immediately realizes he has to go through the next door. He conjures up a fireball and is ready to go in, but it does seem like his hand isn't the only like warmed up thing that he enters into.
Yeah, Zatanna is here, and she is inviting him for a little afternoon night. There's no time. It's some kind of delight, and it's here where I realize he takes off his shirt. He is so jacked for a magic user.
Word.
Is he using the One Punch Man exercise routine? Like, is that
Unless
why
he's
he
just magically conjuring up muscles. Like,
oh, that's possible.
yeah, don't do magical HGH, y'all.
Because yeah, his cardio is a mess with all his cigarettes. But as he's lying there, he realizes, wait, don't we have kids? And Zatanna denies it. But he's so fixated on the kids that he can't concentrate on Zatanna. So, as what happens in most dating situations like this, Zatanna breaks his neck. So this causes another reset. And this time he seems to be holding on to some kind of instinct of memory of fear. And he tries running through doors, tries stairs. So he breaks a window, Beverly Hills Cop style. And finally, he gets to go outside, but things aren't much better out there either.
Oh no, it is a desolate wasteland out there, as the only thing you see is just barren trees, gray skies, and just random pools of water around on the ground. I don't know where the water came from, but luckily for Constantine, it is key for a spell that he has to use, because as he tries to run out, he realizes that he's trapped in this like force field dome, and he realizes that the only way that he can figure out what's happening is to conjure up a spell that will allow him to basically swirly himself into another plane of existence. He does see that there's this like very cosmic space that's all around him, and before he can even ascertain what's truly going on, unfortunately this demonic Zatanna comes out, pulls him out of the pool of water, and takes a quick bite out of his entire torso.
Yeah, talk about breaking his heart. Am I right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty awful.
It's a week too late for a Valentine's special.
Again, the timeline is reset. A line I really liked was that Chaz was ending on the aristocrats joke, which, if you're not familiar in comedy, it's basically the filthiest, dirty joke. A family just does a bunch of crazy, dirty things. And the punchline is, what do you call the act? The aristocrats. Made famous by Gilbert Gottfried and a bunch of other comedians. Don't ever look it up. Don't ever look it up. Promise.
I was just looking it up. I did not know this was up. All right, I'm gonna put my phone down.
Please, as worse as you think it is, it's worse. Trust me, it is a really horrible joke. Do not bring it to church. But in this reset, Constantine pretends to go along with it, but he's proactive. He swirlies himself again, and this time he's able to recall a meeting he had with the Spectre. So apparently, right after the timeline was reset, the Spectre said, "Yo, this whole thing you just did with Flash, that's going to cause ripples. And those ripples are going to do crazy things to the multiverse. So you're going to be sentenced to eternal punishment." And Constantine says, "Look, 100%, I get it. Messed up of me to do. But do me a favor, announce my sentence, because if I suffer here alone without anybody knowing it, somebody else might do it too. So please just tell the multiverse I'm spending an eternity in the House of Mystery." And Spectre's like, okay, that makes a lot of logical sense. So he does it. And on the way out, Constantine goes, "Your outfit sucks," which I can't disagree.
I also did appreciate the fact that they had this version of him that's having this conversation with Spectre is the DC AMU version. So if you were even unsure if it actually being connected at all, it's it's almost like from point A to B and every little step in between that you are seeing. At the same time, though, as he's seeing this moment, he gets pulled out of the swirly once again. This time, all the demons start to attack him because they're like, hey, man, you left dinner without being properly excused. And they start eating him once again. Now that Constantine knows what's going on, he mentions in his narration that everything starts to make sense. The veil of what was happening before, thinking that he was seeing his friends, starts to lift. So as soon as he sees everybody, he knows immediately that they're demons, and he starts attacking them. He starts fighting for his life. But then every single time that this happens, he's putting himself through perpetual torture, and every death of his continues on. At some points, he tries to make some fun of it, crack some jokes, like how at one point he's fighting his kids and telling them that time for you guys to go to bed by any means necessary. So as he's making this stuff, these jokes and just going through death, the days turns into months, the months turn into years, and the years turn into centuries. And it's realizing here that he has been trapped in this perpetual hellscape for all this time until one day when Nergal, the villain that we first met back in City of Demons, comes barreling through the House of Mystery and captures Constantine because now he wants to have a shot at torturing the man who has given him so much pain. And it's revealed that this entire time that we are hearing Constantine giving this voiceover, it's him actually telling Nergal this story of how he came to be in this place.
Yeah, so Nergal is here with a hot poker to to punish John in the worst way. And he's like, look, John, you thought you were really gonna stand here and and just be tortured here? No, no, no. I got the monopoly on that. I own your soul, remember? So just as Nergal is about to get into it, two other demons show up and they're like, hey, 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 wait a minute. We got the soul to us. We want that. And he's like, yeah, I sold my eternal soul a couple times, whatever. And while they're confused, Constantine activates a spell that traps them in the circle. And they can only break the circle if they stop being mad. But they're so mad at each other that they can't get out of the circle. And they're like, why didn't you start torturing him immediately? Why did you wait? Um, and luckily for Constantine, the intrusion of the demons broke a hole into the world between worlds. I'm sorry, I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, so that's just the world that never was for me. But he breaks out of the house. And here, as he's in between the worlds, he finds the Spectre for the craziest plot twist, I dare say, in years for me, in any DC movie, period. As he finds out what he was really in the House of Mystery for.
Spectre, he shares that he's not mad, but he's disappointed in the fact that Constantine escaped what would have been his kind of calm purgatory. It really wasn't a prison at all. This was a place for Constantine to sit and be with his loved ones, all the ones that he lost for all over everything that happened to him in the previous universe, and build out a life for himself. This was supposed to be a perpetual state of eternity where none of his loved ones were going to die. He would be able to build this family that he and Zatanna were talking about at one point, and he'll be able to grab that pint. He will be able to play that poker game. He'll be able to conjure up the comedian that they were talking about during the poker game. And as Constantine sits with this realization, he notices that like the reason why he's been going through hell this entire time is because he's the one that's been creating the hell himself. And all he had to do was just sit back and enjoy life. That was just it. And now he's pleading with the Spectre. It's just like, can you put me back? I now know the error of my ways. Now I'm going to go keep quiet and be with the ones that I love, the thing that I truly want. But the Spectre tells him, nope, it's too late because the universe now wants retribution for what you did because clearly you being there wasn't enough.
Yep. And he looks into the universe, and the universe, we don't hear the conversation, but the universe tells Constantine what's going to happen to Constantine next. He wants to defy the fate, a fate apparently worse than being killed by your loved ones for eternity. And he's pulled into the universe. And that's it. That's all we know. That's where we end Constantine's story.
Mm-hmm. Now, we do have two more shorts to get through. So we're going to wait for our break until after the second short. But for now, what are you giving Constantine House of Mystery? How many deaths of Constantine are you giving this film?
This is an easy 9 deaths out of 10 for me. I think this is an excellent, excellent film because not only is it a great follow up to Apocalypse War, but it does stand on its own. If you haven't watched it, they give you enough information to use it. But if you have watched everything that comes before, it's so rewarding, all the Easter eggs in this. And most of all, the storytelling here, the twist that this was supposed to be his paradise and he made it his hell
Mm-hmm.
because he had let all these people down in his real life. Come on. That's so pure Constantine. That's good storytelling, and the emotion, the weight, everything here is pitch perfect. Vocal performances, pitch perfect. And the only thing holding it back is it doesn't have an actual ending because they're setting up things that may come into play later. So that's the only thing keeping it from a 10 out of 10 for me. No ending, no real ending to the story. But otherwise, in every other way, I love this. It's one of my favorite things I watched in the Tomorrowverse. And that's not high praise because we haven't even started it yet, but it is one of my favorite things. Where how many deaths are you giving it?
I'm also giving it a 9 out of 10 because this is what I love of Constantine. How, you write these stories, show these stories of like how he does all this work to make a better life possible, but showing what he had to sacrifice in order to do it. I feel like every single time you've seen a Constantine story, it has had that element. I also love his ingenuity. Like, we don't hear about the many other centuries that he had to go through with this, but in 4 takes, you see how in like his ingenuity in trying to decipher what's happening, what's going on, and he gets to the answer really quick. And I know that this is definitely a Constantine thing to do. The gore and the storytelling is also really amazing because at times, like what's gonna happen, but at other times it's just so unexpected when you see like the Zatanna scene, like having just this like really like heartfelt moment of them talking about, hey, I think I'm ready to have kids after he and Zatanna were talking about he wasn't too sure about having them. And you see something about Matt Ryan's Constantine is that you can always guarantee that at some scene, you're always going to see some crazy level of growth from this man in like 5 seconds, he will grow his character. And I love it. Also, gotta love the fact that Constantine is always going to be a cheeky SOB. Like every single one of his lines is just so on par with like either giving you a quick laugh or showing you that he, even if he's not the smartest person in the room, he will be the most confident. So I
Mm.
love that it still was there, even with a different character design. The thing that does hold it back for me is just the same thing, like the ending, they're setting up for the other film, so it does feel a little bit unfinished. And I also wonder if like we could have actually started the film without the Apocalypse War flashback. Like I know it's a part of the storytelling, but I wonder if that could have moved to when he sees him Inspector having that conversation and not necessarily having to show the scenes, but just he and Spectre talking about like you use magic in order to guide Flash in order to make this world. And then I think it would have been like a double plot twist. Like
Mm.
even this the way it plays out now is perfectly fine, but like I think it'd be nice to see that it's just like we find out this plot twist that this is exactly directed from the previous universe, and then you find out the additional plot twist that this is just a conversation he's having with Nergal, and then you find out the plot twist that like it's Spectre planned this out to be like a paradise purgatory for him. So it's a
All right, M. Night Shyamalan. All right.
but yeah, 9 out of 10, definitely. So very much glad that we got a chance to see this film. And then this was like a 27-minute short, which is I think one of the longest shorts showcases that we've actually seen from the DC universe. Because following that, even though that it's 27 minutes, we do find out that this is a compilation of showcases. Directly following that is something that actually premiered 1 year prior to when this came out. It was a part of Justice Society World War II, as we have Kamandi, the last boy on Earth. At a runtime of just about 18 minutes, as you mentioned, this movie was actually originally released as a part of the Justice Society World War II, the second longer film within the Tomorrowverse. This is a 2021 film, also directed by Matt Peters. It was written by Paul Giacopo, who's more famously known for writing several of like the 2010 era of Marvel animated series shows like um, Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Hulk's Agents of Smash, that kind of stuff, and for DC stuff as well, as he has written a couple of episodes for DC's Young Justice. Animation services were provided by NE4U Incorporated, which has done work on Batman Hush, Injustice, and Dawn of the Croods.
What a resume.
Next up, we got our cast list. So from Shameless, we also got Gotham, as he was I guess there were two versions of Joker, but no, there was really just one, but it got very confusing towards that last season.
They're everyone's Joker.
As we have Cameron Monaghan, the face of every single Star Wars, like the Star Wars games we've been seeing now as late. He is voicing Kamandi, the last boy on Earth today. We got Steve Bloom, who is Golgan and Tufton. We have Adam Gifford, who is voicing Zuma, the adversary of kind of like our group today. And then finally, we have Armin Taylor, who has been in so many video games and other things that at first I thought his character was going to be someone that I loved from Legends of Tomorrow, but is actually Ben Boxer.
I fully thought he was Steel.
Yeah, I was so ready to be like, yes, this is it. Also, there's something that comes up that upset me the most because I was like, this would have been the perfect moment to bring up Steel.
Oh yeah, actually, very similar scene. But we'll get there.
Yeah, so let's not waste any time and boom tube over to the beginning of Kamandi, the last boy on Earth.
So if you watch Planet of the Apes, this is going to look familiar to you. Statue of Liberty is underwater, so things have gone a bit sideways. And we can definitely see it because there's a boy on the raft wearing the last pair of jean shorts on Earth. And he's rowing his little raft boat over to find his talking tiger friend Tufton. Is that Tufton?
Yeah, Tufton, not Tony.
Not Tony. And Tufton's having a little rough because right now he's being held hostage by a bunch of bootleg splinters. And by that, I do mean the rat, the giant rat, and not the wood, not sentient pieces of wood.
Not Groot.
Not Groot's. So they are holding the Tufton hostage, hoping to get some cat flesh. Really dark. Like we're gonna turn this around. Rats eating cats. But luckily Kamandi shows up, but unluckily he decides to free Tufton in the noisiest way possible.
Yeah, so along his journeys, Kamandi picked up a shotgun. Just shotguns laying around in this dystopian future. I feel like that is against everything I've ever seen in like The Walking Dead and other.
Yeah, where's the ammo? Where's he getting all the ammo from?
Right. So he takes the shotgun, blows off the lock, alerts everyone, and this now leads into a full-on chase. It is the reverse of a cat and mouse scenario. As they escape and exit the location, they get captured by, I kid you not, is actually called the Ape Cult.
So yeah, this didn't help my Planet of the Apes comparison.
Oh yeah, no. They're thrown into a caravan where we get introduced now to Ben, just other human on this caravan, completely discrediting the last boy on Earth tagline.
Yeah, because like, look, okay, so in case you haven't seen it visually, Kamandi does not look like a boy. He looks like a guy in his 20s that you find outside of like a Chipotle or something on the way to a surf shop. Like he looks like a full-grown man.
He is the last young adult on Earth. That's what he is.
Maybe the last millennial. I don't know. Would be an accurate title, but boy is a bit stretching it.
So Kamandi and Ben, they know each other. Tufton does not know Ben, but you would think that you would get the story of how Ben and Kamandi know each other. No, we get the story of how Kamandi came to be.
Yeah, apparently there was a great calamity years ago. So Kamandi's grandfather was like, hey, I got a fallout bunker over here. Why don't I raise you? and teach you everything and only bring you. And in the hope of his granddad was that Kamandi, because that was the name of the base, Kamandi. Though if it was his grandfather, does he know his grandson's name?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. They give the grandfather's name. His name is
Yeah.
Buddy or Billy Blank, which sounds like a fake name, but at the same time, how does Commandy not have a last name?
Yeah. Okay, I'm realizing that now. But here's the other thing. The granddad is like, yeah, you're gonna continue humanity. And I'm like, hey, granddad, I don't know if anyone's taught you about anatomy, but humans don't reproduce asexually. So, despite your good intentions, this is it. What
We're
was your
done.
plan? Why didn't you bring any, like, yes,
Anyone else?
anyone else? Of course, consent is important. You would have to have a conversation with a woman you brought or a young girl, however it got there. But Commandy can't do this by himself. I'm sorry. It's not happening. So granddad points on saving your grandson and subtracting you for remembering your grandson's name and it being so awkward you just let him come up with one himself and not having a plan past let's hide in a bunker.
So after this very touching story of we arrive at the home base of the ape cult, and we are introduced to basically the world's most sentient versions of different apes and primates, as we are introduced to Golgan, who shares the origin of their current state, the Great Disaster, which we're calling now Earth AD, Earth After Disaster, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point we learned that there was an earthquake, and because of that, it caused tsunamis. And this devastated the entire planet. But then at some point, a great being came from the sky. It's this guy that has like a lot of muscles, like a very stylized hairstyle. We don't know who he was, wink wink, but he somehow was able to save a majority of the people before, according to the imagery, he just fell into a cavern. And now has been gone for ages. And the belief is that they've brought people because they think that this person died, but somehow has been reincarnated as another individual. So they're going to put people through tests or experiments, as they call it, to see if anyone might have traits of the mighty one. And right now, we see that Kamandi, Tufton, Ben, and a new person a new gorilla ape that like just travels from the back of the crowd to prove his mettle about everything, Zuma, are going to be our main contestants, plus all the rat people that were taken into custody.
Yeah, so the first test is they have to because the the great one could step on clouds. They gotta jump across this huge cavern. How that is equal, you figure that out because we can't. And I love this test because they were the ape men were like the ape cult was like pushing spears in their backs to jump, and I'm like, can you let them have a running start?
Right.
Like, no one can jump that far from neutral. Zuma makes it, but unfortunately, Tufton pulls a Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible Fallout and breaks his foot while hopping in between the chasm. Look it up. He got to work like a week after. It's incredible.
Not human. Tom Cruise may be the mighty one.
Maybe he is. Maybe let's test him. Let's put him through these tests. And in his rush to save Tufton, Kamandi pole vaults over the canyon, which I guess isn't against the rules. So he does pole vault and then kicks a bridge basically for his friend Billy to cross over. And yeah, then we're ready to continue to the next round of this Squid Game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, funny thing also about that thing that you mentioned about them getting poked in the back. Yeah, 3 rat people died because the apes just kept poking them over the leg. So as they continue on to the second trial, it's to walk down a corridor, which seems simple enough. Unfortunately, they have equipped it with laser shotguns. So they start shooting into the pathway because according to Golgun, he says the mighty one was able to repel any weapon, no matter what kind of blast, off of its hide. And as they're walking through, Zuma unfortunately gets like hit pretty badly, enough for him to still be in the game. But then Ben, we find out he looks on in and he's just like, "Hey, this looks like a job for a man of steel," and turns into steel, but not the steel we wanted.
Just random aluminum. Uh,
Aluminum man.
and everyone pretty much goes like, okay, cool. So they just decide to walk down the hallway behind him. But unfortunately, they release the acid, which I don't know if the Great One was immune to acid. If it's the one I'm thinking of, I don't think they were either. But sure. So to save his friend Ben, Kamandi says, "Hey, I think I can turn off the acid smoke, whatever," and runs into the acid, using his forearms to block himself from getting too severely burned, and then turns off the acid and dunks himself into water. Kids, no,
No,
don't do this at home. Do
that's
not
not
run into
science.
acid. I'm sure water is gonna make you feel better. Check with the chemist if you even should do that. I'm not sure you should. But now his arms are burned with acid, but that doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't matter because now we have to step into the plot of Aquaman 2 real quick.
Yeah, because this time we're here for the final trial. This is when we learn that the mighty or the great one could quell any beast, no matter what size it was. This is when we get introduced to the world's largest, most jacked grasshopper I've ever seen. I've watched A Bug's Life several times, and I know that there's not too many grasshoppers in there, even though Hopper is not supposed to be a grasshopper. But like, what was happening with this grasshopper that it was so damn big?
it, it was I'm telling you, it was drinking whatever was in Aquaman 2. Whatever was making the bugs big on that island.
Yeah, it was the yep. And I think it was a combination of that plus magical HGH. So Constantine was taking probably.
Everyone gets a little bit, but I do love in one of the best really moments of friendship here. Uh, Zuma and Kamandi are pretty much the only ones who are capable of fighting. So Kamandi says, "Look, if we work together, we can beat this grasshopper." And Zuma's like, "You're right," and throws Kamandi to the grasshopper. Absolutely love that moment. Um, but of course, it doesn't work, and Zuma gets in trouble, but Kamandi saves him. And before Zuma can even process, like, I just tried to kill you. Why did you do that? And he's like, life is sacred. And in that note, he goes on top of the grasshopper, breaks the collar off, and is able to kind of tame the monster. And Squid Game's over now, guys.
Because we have a winner. Kamandi is our ultimate winner. He is deemed by everyone as the reincarnated version of the Great One. So as they walk him up over to his prize, thinking maybe this might be cash, this might be food or ammo in this dystopian future. Nope, it is more clothes because it's revealed that the Great One wore a Superman t-shirt. It is unsure if Superman actually wore this. I'm just gonna say it because it's like, how do we know that Superman was the Great One? Like this, they were like, this is the shirt he wore. If he fell into the cavern, where did you get the shirt?
From Urban Outfitters, clearly. There was an Old Navy sale right before the world ended. Um,
All right, I take it back. You're right. That's probably where it came from.
so yeah, he's the mighty one now, and they talk about the virtues that he has. He displayed wisdom, sacrifice, and mercy for enemy, which is what they were really testing for. But I mean, if you test solo, how do you determine these qualities at all?
Right.
Anyway, Kamandi says, "I am going to find Superman. That's my mission. That's my character arc for 6 seasons in a movie." And as he rides away into the sunset on his grasshopper, he tells all his friends, "Don't come." And the ape cult leader mysteriously says he's going to wish he didn't go because if he fails, it means the end of everything.
What? So as we're left here to ponder what Golgan is talking about, if someone needs to check on him, because I don't know how a man on a grasshopper is going to protect us from the end of everything. Here's a podcast from the Forgotten Entertainment family that you should be listening to the next time you're not listening to us.
Hello, my name is Andrew Morgan.
My name is Shane Beauregard.
And my name is Chris Frodell.
And together we form like Voltron to make a brand new entertainment and pop culture podcast called Recent Activity.
Every Wednesday, we will bring you deep dive reviews of the hottest titles from around the film and TV world, previews of the next big things to add to your watch list, or do fun things like top 5 lists, movie drafts, or anniversary celebrations of your favorite classic films.
Subscribe now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Starting May the 11th.
Now that we have covered our second short of this collected bunch here in the DC Showcase, how many, I guess, broken Tufton ankles are you giving this showcase?
You know, this is going to surprise some people here. I'm giving this a solid 7 Tufton ankles. This short is insane. This is insane. All right. At no point did I know what was going to happen next. I was truly perplexed. There's no point in breaking down the plot, themes. It doesn't matter. This was just, I have so much admiration for whoever said we could adapt Green Lantern, Hawkman, Black Lightning. No, Kamandi, Last Boy on Earth. Let's put budget on this. Let's get this into HBO. We have to do this. This is a story that demands to be told. I don't know why you needed to tell this story, but I have to admire that you committed 100%. None of it makes sense. 7 out of 10. What nonsensical rating for a nonsensical short?
Oh my gosh. You know, I'm kind of glad that we were thinking, because I had to give this this story again. No idea where I was going with it. But if I wasn't entertained from beginning to end, would I have wanted to see more about how Ben and Kamandi know each other? Maybe. I don't know if it would have been pinnacle to the plot at all. But I love the fact that Zuma straight up took Kamandi and threw him at the monster. I also love that we got like below budget steel, and they use every line to hint at it being Superman. And by the end of it, you're just like, well, of course it was Superman. Honestly, I would have bumped this up to a 10 out of 10 if it wasn't Superman.
Yeah, if it was just like Black Canary, that was the reveal.
It's just Booster Gold.
It's just Booster. No, it's Tusk. That's who it is. Yes. It's somehow Tusk. That would have been our highest rated movie ever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This was the Tusk adventure. This should have been it. But yeah, I loved the fact that, like you said, you didn't know where this short was going to go. The characters and the story is interesting enough that I would love to see more about what's going on, like to see how this journey plays out. So hoping that maybe in like more of the future Crisis on Infinite Earths films, maybe that's where we'll see Kamandi come back. He's just been traveling for like 6 odd films.
I would love if he does come back with absolutely no explanation. No one explains his backstory. No one says where he's from. He's just here. In fact, I just want him to be in the background, just part of the cast. No explanation of how he got there in the next movie. He's just hopping around on his grasshopper. The less the better for me.
Oh, and also still have him hold on to the shirt. I want him to hold on to the shirt. I just want him to like have it waving like a flag behind him.
He's like, "Is this yours?" He's like, "Do I know you?"
It's like, clearly it's not my small Navy. What would I have?
Are you my son in another universe? I'm a boy. No, you're not. You're not actually.
You're the last college student on Earth. You just avoided your student loan debt. So I guess he is a true hero.
That's the only good part of his existence.
Oh man, so Kamandi, you did a good job in just keeping us entertained through the set of showcases that we're going through. So next up is a showcase. Right after Kamandi, we get a showcase. It's unfortunately not a part of the Tomorrowverse, but watch it, y'all. If you thought Kamandi was off the rails, The Losers Showcase is the greatest off the rails film I have ever seen in my entire life.
If you came into it like me, expecting like something like the Chris Evans movie, just even vaguely like the Chris Evans movie, no, 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 no. The Get Out, no, 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 no. It is. Look, I don't want to spoil any of the fun. I'm just saying this movie is. If you think Jurassic Park is too highbrow, too smart, too sciency, you're gonna love this. You're just gonna love this.
Mhm. You also get a chance to see the world's fastest man. It is not who you think it will ever be. So while you're enjoying that film, you're now ready then to see the last film in this collected showcases, which is Blue Beetle. This was first actually paired with the Batman The Long Halloween Part 2. It was a short showcase that was added on to the release of that.
That's weird.
Yeah. I again, like, honestly, I sometimes get upset about these showcases because it does feel like they're just taking like the stuff that was in other films, just adding it in together and just be like, oh yeah, this is something whole brand new. Like, technically the Adam Strange showcase, which we have referenced from the Green Lantern Beware My Power, we're not going to talk about that showcase, even though it does exist in this universe, because it's explained in full detail in the Beware My Power. So you don't need to watch it. If you want to, go ahead. You love DC, go ahead. But you don't need to watch it. So we're not going to cover it for this set of showcase specials here. However, we did have to talk about another great hero, because DC's Blue Beetle here, not the one that's like we've talked about at length on Young Justice. This is Ted Kord's adventure. Has a runtime of 16 minutes. It was in a 2022 film that was added on to Long Halloween Part 2, as I mentioned. That was directed by Milo Newman. Screenplay was written by Jeremy Adams and Jennifer Keane. Jeremy Adams is the one who stated that Kamandi was a part of this universe, so that opened up our eyes to make sure to look out and check out all these other shorts to see and make sure there's any references. And these were the ones that we did see the connections. Animation services were provided by Digital Emation, which has done a lot of stuff within not only the Tomorrowverse, but some of the latter half of like DC animated films as of late. And we got our cast list, starting with the Aquaman from the DC AMU, who has finally turned himself from a fish out of water to a bug on the ground, as Matt Lanter is now Blue Beetle. We got Jeff Bennett, who is voicing Captain Atom in our film for a brief scene, alongside the most eccentric jazz record store proprietor I've ever met in my life, Pops. Ashley Birch is Nightshade. We got David Kay, who we've known as who took over as the voice of Vandal Savage in the Young Justice universe. He is here today as the Question. And finally, he's been holding it down as SpongeBob for basically our entire lives now, as we got Tom Kenny as Dr. Spectro. So with that, let us boom tube over to the beginning of DC Showcases Blue Beetle.
And we are shining bright like a diamond because that's what these squid guys are looking for. They're looking for a specialty diamond. And right away, you'll notice the animation is very reminiscent of something like Super Friends. It's a little stiff, but still fun. So I like that stylistic choice right away. And as they're about to get away with the theft, Blue Beetle arrives, and they immediately, to show, we're as far away as the Constantine short as possible. They play a game of keep away, very low stakes, non-violent game of keep away, until Blue Beetle says, "You know what? I'd never lose a game of keep away," and punches one of the thugs right in the face.
It's just as, of course, as we mentioned, this is a very antiquated, or not antiquated, but rather old style of animation here. We see that the diamond is floating gently down towards Blue Beetle's hands with no effort of him trying to catch it while midair. And unfortunately, one of these thugs is able to grab it and get away with it. And now that he doesn't know what to do next, he's contemplating their plan. Fortunately, these questions lead to the entry of the Question, who enters the room and starts investigating the situation. They have like a very in-depth debate about like what is justice and why it is that these thugs have been trying to steal this diamond. What could be the purpose be for? And it all comes to a head when, as the question is searching, he finds a bottle cap for a cola called Zort's Cola. And apparently, it is the most dangerous drink known to man because of all the chemical additives that have been put into it. And I honestly got scared because I thought they were talking about Four Loko.
Yeah, not since the Four Loko scare, not since the Panera pandemic. Those drinks are dangerous, y'all. Don't drink too many of those.
Man, so bad.
But these things are so toxic that the Blue Beetle actually wonders, like, can I still have kids? And question goes, that is a question for your urologist. Hilarious. It's a great line. So having found the soda cap, they're like, look, there's only a few places that sell this. So they end up going to a store with this very energetic hippie who is praising the merits of Zorts, is drinking it by the gallon load. Probably would not be useful in Kamandi's world because I don't think this man can have kids anymore. And he is very, very free thinking. He's like, I'm not gonna give up footage of a customer that was here, but question doesn't give him much of an option.
Yeah, because showing that we are operating the DC universe, and question probably took some interrogation lessons from Batman. He pulls him by his scarf across the entire the counter. He asked to see the CCTV footage from within the store, which at first the owner proprietor is saying that like, hey man, I know my rights. You're not allowed to do that without a warrant. And pretty sure question was just like, my warrant is dismissed. So as they check the footage, they see that one of the thugs, this like squid gang here, apparently as they were purchasing this Zorts, took a penny and left a penny. This is I don't feel like I have to explain it, but this was just a system that I feel like we don't see too much nowadays, where it's just like apparently you just broke even by dropping pennies into a small dish. I don't know what the purpose was for them to begin with, but I guess for common decency. And
a bad tip system.
So they realize that the best way to find where the squid gang is at is to take the penny and analyze it. However, they don't want to sit down and try to sift through every single one of the pennies that's in this jar. So Question and Blue Beetle grab the entire jar and just run away with the pennies, with the proprietor just yelling, it's like, hey, it's take a penny, leave a penny.
I can tell this is the same universe Jay Garrick is because the heroes believe in crime. No laws.
That's who it was. Armin Taylor from our previous short is actually the voice of Jay Garrick in the Justice Society World War II. It's all full circle.
Yeah. And also, this was referenced in Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, the take a penny, leave a penny, right before Uncle Ben gets shot. I don't know why I know that fact, but I do.
You see why it's a bad system, people? Leave the penny.
It's a canon event. So when Blue Beetle's wondering how are they going to find it, and Question reasons that, look, all of them wear gloves. So we just find the one with no fingerprints on it. Bing, bang, boom. And that's better detective work than I see in like half of Batman movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. So they find a slimy substance, which happens to be a polishing agent for a telescopic device. This is Batman 1960s kind of level logic. And throughout the conversation they were having, there's a lot of banter about like Cord products, Cord Industries, and Cord products have a beacon. And Blue Beetle keeps denying that he's Ted Cord, but once he says the beacon thing, he's like, yeah, I'm Ted Cord. It's okay. And reveals his identity to the Question. And that's when, now that we have all the pieces in place, it's time to reveal the notorious DC villain, Dr. Spectro.
Yes, this man is evil. In fact, he's so evil that he's skirted from my radar for all of existence, as I am now seeing Dr. Spectro for the first time here. But we do get a quick explanation of his abilities and his powers, very much like, I guess like the best way I could describe it is the Rainbow Raider, I think it was, from Flash, where he's able to control people's emotions. So we get a chance to hear his devious plot here, where he's planning to use the power of his emotions to control the world on a larger scale, thanks to the fact of the refractive power of the diamond and the telescope. this is also when we realize, because in the earlier scene, Blue Beetle does comment that the Squid Gang, who's normally very, I guess bumbling, they were very devoted to trying to get this diamond. So they realized that it's revealed that Dr. Spectral influenced the Squid Gang to get better, to be devoted to him, and truly try to get this diamond. And this is when we see that Blue Beetle in question, they drop down from the ceiling after burning a hole through it, and now they're ready to tackle on this adversary and save the world. However, they first have to get past two of their greatest allies in this battle, which, according to Blue Beetle, is a part of the team, as shown on the comic book that he pulls out from his back pocket as he faces off against Nightshade and Captain Atom.
Yeah, and I love that fourth wall break there. And they are different from, at least Captain Atom is very different from the design I'm used to seeing him as. But yeah, they're completely in charge. And Dr. Spectro, again, leaning on that wall, he's like, goons, don't face him. I want to see the superheroes fight each other. And the Emperor of Emotion just watches as all the good guys try to tear each other apart. But in the middle of everything, Question is able to convince Adam to change the chemical composition of Zort's soda with his powers, so it becomes an antidote that he can drink. And it works. Surprisingly, it works. And all the heroes are able to come out of it, but unfortunately, not before the machine turns on and floods the city with emotions, completely reducing everyone to being too depressed to fight. But luckily, there's the only thing stronger than a machine powered by a diamond is the Question's mind.
Oh, yes, because he has the full understanding that emotions are just hormonal imbalances within the body. So he's able to balance his emotions well enough to fight against this wave and lead the final blow, the punch, straight to Dr. Spectro's face and destroying the telescopic diamond emotion wave. I'm not making this up. This is exactly how it goes down. And I'm mad that there's so much good dialogue surrounding it, that it really had me in suspense. This is when, thankfully, with everybody now in their proper state, this is when Captain Atom and Nightshade take the Squid Gang into custody. Not before the Squid Gang, please. It's just like, come on, man. We were just under the influence of the Dr. Spectro. This is not on us.
I mean, fair.
That's a very good case, though, I would say.
Matt Murdock, get on this. And in the celebration, Dr. Spectro slips away into a kind of dimensional portal of some sort. And Question is really upset about it. He just like, this is not how it's supposed to go. This is like objectively wrong. And Blue Beetle goes, hey, you know what, man? How about I take you out for a nice soda? And there is our ending of A Tale of Two Friends.
So with that, we now have the final question here of how many Zort's Cola sodas are you giving DC Showcases Blue Beetle?
I'm going to give this a legitimate 10 out of 10. This short knows what it is. It succeeds at what it is, which is, it's a send-up of maybe even we're barely young enough for this, but those really old Super Friends cartoons where logic was loose, but they always justified it. The animation had this charm to it, and the characters here are just so fun. They're just having a ball. There's no point in arguing about the leaps of logic because everything's honestly pretty tight. It's tighter logic than Kamandi for sure. It has a beginning, middle, end, and actually left me kind of like, I'd watch more of this. I'd watch a season of Blue Beetle on the Question. And I think the choice to have everyone, but use these minor characters in the mythos. And I didn't think this was legal, but to have a series of shorts and Batman does not show up or is even mentioned, I thought that was illegal. But this proved that you can do it. You can tell fun stories without relying on the same two people. So I'm going to give it, I think it did everything it set out to do. I don't see a more perfect version of this. So I'm going to give it a 10 questions, 10 answers. I don't know. One of those out of 10. How about you?
I'm skirting it down by only half a point, but I gotta give this a 9.5 out of 10. And the reason why it loses the half point is just because of like Dr. Spectro's escape. It ends. It's basically a cliffhanger. And it does seem like it may be connected to events that will pop up probably in the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline. Like, I feel like his level of powers is just way too powerful to just like put in for a short and just disappear with it. But I agree. I do see that the people who put this short together knew exactly what they were working with. They made it very nostalgic with just like the very feel of like the Super Friends and all the shows, the cartoons that we were seeing. Well, barely got a chance to see when we were younger. But I did love the fact too that they leaned into it so heavily. There's even at one point where there's actually two great moments where in the beginning of it, there are three. There are many great moments that I really enjoyed. The first being is just that it has this like super jazzy intro that's very synonymous to like a bunch of like these animated cartoons that we were seeing back in the day. And then when it starts, we see that the Squid Gang is climbing up the side of the building, very much like Adam West, Batman and Robin. The other thing too is that like there's a moment in which in between scenes, very much like these shows, they had that like title card of like who the hero is and it's spinning around real fast. And then what they topped it off with was when Ted Kord announces that yes, he is Ted Kord, he is Blue Beetle. They switched the Blue Beetle logo to just Ted Kord's face. And I was like, that is just knowing your audience very well. So I'm giving this movie a 9.5 out of 10 just because if it is trying to set up something that might pop up in Crisis on Infinite Earths, either 1, 2, or 3, we don't see it here. But it alludes so much to it. The dialogue was great, voice acting was great. Even the little animation goofs to try to team it up with this. Like at one point, I think Blue Beetle's mouth disappears as he's talking. It works out so well that like, and it's such a self-contained story too, that you can't leave this film upset. It's a great time. You're gonna have fun. Just know that don't expect like a long drawn out story because everything, the leaps like you were mentioning, the leaps happen, but they make sense compared to most detective work I've seen on other shows.
Yeah, this still is a more coherent plot than like Merry Little Batman. Surprisingly,
oh, yeah.
like thematically.
So now that we finished out our shorts, that is how the collected edition of the DC Showcase here that came out in 2022 ended out. We could sit here and talk about every single character, but I'm gonna break it down for you here. Constantine, we already know all about him because we covered him so much. So if you want to know some more, definitely check out Constantine, City of Demons, Justice League Dark, and Apocalypse War. We had a lot of great coverage on him there. Spectre is relatively new, so I do feel like they might be toying around with him a little bit more now. So I want to wait before we talk about him. Blue Beetle, we talked about at length. Question, I have so many more questions about him. He's not a character I'm not too familiar with. So I'm going to try to do some more research on him, but I do love the fact that every single time I've seen him across Justice League Unlimited to Batman Brave and the Bold, and even here today, he has always knocked it out the park as such a great and interesting character that I leave with just more questions on who he is. But today, because this is a character that I feel like we may not see again, we gotta talk about Kamandi, y'all.
Hell yeah. Let's go. The MVP.
Yes, this man. Well, this young adult, the last young adult on Earth, he has been apparently around for quite some time, and he is a Jack Kirby creation back from 1972. Very much, his title series was very much titled the same way as we saw it in our standard DC Showcase opening, where you're walking to the comic book store, you head up to the comic, and you see what we're talking about today. That's basically issue number 1 and what we are seeing today here in this film. However, the story gets broken down into more 3 segments versus what we saw a little bit here. So the comic opens up just like our movie, where Kamandi is going through this dystopian future. The Statue of Liberty is off to the side. He's paddling through. He comes up to a piece of land, and when he's there, he sees other humans.
Oh, well, that would have been nice.
Well, apparently these other humans are in a feral state. They don't speak. They just act very just out of it. So when they see Kamandi, they just run away. And he continues on to his journey. He comes up to the Kamandi once again, and this is where we get introduced to Buddy Blanca's grandfather. And we learn that he lived there in Kamandi with his grandfather, who was teaching him about the world. Didn't really seem like there was a sense of like he has to be the one to repopulate Earth. It was more so this is like you just have to survive. Unfortunately, when he returned, he comes face to face against two wolves, these two wolf people, and he immediately starts to attack them. One he was able to chase away, but the other one was able to get a shot, and this is the one that killed his grandfather.
Mm.
In rage, Kamandi ends up killing the two wolves. He's able to track them down and kill them. And this is when he's just like, all right, grandfather's dead. Time for me to continue on my journey. Gotta move on. 90% sure he just left his grandfather in Kamandi.
I was like, this is like the start of a Pokemon journey. But you don't want to catch them all this time around.
Yeah. So he loads up some stuff to take with him, and immediately as he heads on out, he gets captured, or rather gets caught in between a war of leopards and tigers.
Oh my.
The tigers win this battle, and they take Kamandi into custody, bringing him to their leader, Caesar. He ends up talking with them, and they're like, we want you to meet our like chief scientist, which is a dog named Dr. Canis.
Where did he get his degree?
Definitely from Rutgers University. That was a reach. So Dr. Canis is the lead scientist with the group, and he's working on something to try to help the world alongside his mutant human friend, Ben Boxer. So yes, Ben Boxer, who could turn into anything, is canon to the comics. And this is just it. They work together, they go out, they do journeys, they try to acquire things while navigating this world of anthropomorphic animals taking over, and Kamandi being the last boy on Earth. In the comic, it does seem like he is about a teenager, so I can see why they were like the last boy kind of tagline. But there's no like he's trying to go out there and trying to find Superman or anything like that. It's just them navigating this world. And this is what led to the question of why Kamandi. And I'm so glad that you brought up Planet of the Apes. Because Jack Kirby created this story when one of DC's famous editors, Carmine Infantino, couldn't get the rights to make the Planet of the Apes series under the DC logo. So Jack had this Kamandi story written out a little bit. He decided to change up the characters just enough that it looks like and feels like Planet of the Apes, but isn't quite Planet of the Apes because they include more animals.
Well, I can't say based on this that they quite got there.
There's not too much after Kamandi that I can really find. Like most of the stuff I know, like people do love the character and do love the stories because it's like in the 70s just really fell in love with this post-apocalyptic world. But we do see a lot of Kamandi, not in just this short, but also really a lot. I think he had at least like 3 or 4 stronger appearances in Batman the Brave and the Bold series, where we do see Tufton has made his comeback as like a friend of Kamandi, and also Click Clock, which is the name of the grasshopper, which Kamandi rides off into the sunset with at the end of our film today. That is also a big part of Kamandi's like grouping here. But what we
What
are
about Shoddy?
So fun fact about that, it's not necessary for him because apparently Kamandi can use any weapon. He is so good that any weapon that he uses comes like second nature to him, almost like a Power Ranger and a Megazord.
Nice.
So the Shoddy is nice, but he can also pull up anything else.
He could be like a futuristic Green Arrow if he tried hard enough.
That's the real story. It would make sense though. It's like the blonde hair and the jorts. Like that is it right there.
Green Arrow Beyond, but worse than Batman Beyond.
So that's the story of Kamandi. That's the character we were just wanting to focus on today. More of these other characters may either pop up or we already know much about them, so we'll wait on them. But that also wraps up our showcase for today. So this was a bunch of different showcases, all connected to the Tomorrowverse, which are going to be starting next week, starting with Superman, Man of Tomorrow. The art style we already know has changed. I mean, it's going to be completely different from what we've seen across Constantine, Kamandi, and Blue Beetle, but very excited to see how these all play out, hopefully in the Crisis films that are coming out now. So with that, we're going to wrap up. Be sure to support us on our Patreon and check out our socials for updates on episodes that you can find across podcast platforms and on YouTube. And be sure to take care of yourselves. And always remember that if you end up in a post-apocalyptic world and you have to find out to see if you might be the mighty one, check and make sure that the prize isn't something you could have just easily picked up from Old Navy.
Yes. And if you end up in an eternal time loop, just try like being happy. You might end up in paradise instead of like hell.
Thanks again for listening. Yet another DC animated podcast is a proud part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. If you liked what you heard, leave a review and share us with a friend. Also be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts and on social media at YA DC Animated Pod.